How will the FAA's emerging beyond visual line of sight waivers affect the American consumer and consumers around the world? My name is Stephen Sam. I'm a drone pilot and educator. Welcome to Stephen Drones On. So the FAA is allowing the different companies that are interested in delivering things like just regular food or things like medicine, pharmacies like Walgreens, to start rolling out tests in certain areas and increasing how far beyond the line of sight of the operator these delivery vehicles can be operated. Now, the question is, will these trials prove that these operations are safe? Will there be instances of autonomous drones crossing the path of airplanes and helicopters and other vehicles that the FAA has to approve? Where will these drones be flying? So the FAA Beyond Visual Line of Sight Committee, I actually have a friend named Terrence Hicks from Detroit who's a part of this planning committee. And one of the things he's told me about are these corridors or drone highways that the FAA is essentially having to carve out of the airspace to make room for this entire new sector of aviation. There's a lot of questions surrounding this, but the question American consumers want to know is, will I be getting my stuff delivered by drones? And a lot of that depends on how successful these tests are, how willing the FAA is to allow these tests to take place, and then also to have these operations scale. Now, it's interesting, a lot of these companies are having a really hard time getting waivers. And like anything else, there's politics involved. So, who's gonna get the waivers? How long is it gonna take? Is a competitor gonna get a better waiver to be able to do more testing so they can prove more efficacy? Will companies look to other countries to do some of this testing? There's been lots of cases in Africa where these first use cases have been hammered out, particularly with medical deliveries, because there's no airspace regulation in Africa, really. For all intents and purposes, there's very limited regulation. These are some of the big questions hanging over drone delivery, and it really has to do with this beyond visual line of sight waiver and how the FAA is dealing with that. Now, aside from drone delivery, a little bit further down the line, there's also the issue of drone taxis, essentially quadcopter or multi-rotor passenger vehicles, which will be autonomous. A passenger will be sitting in like an Uber. Uber is very heavily invested in this. They'll be sitting in basically a drone Uber that will take you somewhere, and there won't be a pilot sitting in the vehicle. It will be flown autonomously through computer systems. Now, some people find that scary, some people don't. I've had interesting experiments asking my students whether or not they would want to ride in a drone taxi. But how soon we see that technology rollout depends a lot on how the FAA is able to manage these beyond visual line of sight waivers, which is sort of starting with the delivery vehicles. And that's really beginning to roll out in 2023. Thank you. I'll see you next time.